Hey, welcome to the I.Help Prelude to Success show. And I'm so excited. We're going to focus today. And that's our word for the week, focus. We're going to stay on focus, try to stay on track. We're going to try to overcome all of my ADD tendencies. And to do that, the one person that's been working for 25 years trying to tame my ADD tendencies is my co-host today, Angel Denker, the sales pro. Welcome, Angel, from Same Team Selling.
Hi, thanks for having me.
What do you do?
I work with CEOs and business owners that are frustrated their people aren't closing deals fast enough and are anxious that they may not be making their number this quarter and are worried they might just not have the right people on the bus. Do you know anybody in that realm?
I do. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people in that boat, and I love what you do to help them. Great to be on the team, and welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Hey, so we don't have any tunes. Jack is great for having a tune to start the show off, and I went into my Apple Tunes and tried to find my bear with me. My camera just went crazy. So now we're going to go to another camera because I froze. Did this last week. And so now, we're live again. And we've got I know. It's the craziest thing. I haven't figured out how to figure out the lighting on this. Man, this is frustrating. I can't tell you how frustrating this is. But it keeps happening. It's like I'm going great. And then my camera just goes crazy. And it will not pick me up. Bear with me. I apologize.
That's why we're talking about focus, because you're not in focus.
Right. So now I'm not in focus. It doesn't look like I'm in focus, but we're back.
Oh, there.
All right. So sorry about that, but someday we'll get it all going with the cameras. Thank you, Lacey, the producer.
Yay for our producer.
Always appreciate support. But today we're talking about focus, and a friend of mine, Craig Houston, who is a very successful executive coach and leadership development expert, he gave me an acrostic that is focus. What do those letters mean? Follow one course until successful. Follow one course until successful. And so behind that, so many people say, well, I can't do that. I've got too many different ways I can go. How do you pick one way? If I pick one and it's the wrong one, what am I going to do? And I think we have this fear of missing out, right? We have this fear of, I'm going to miss something. There's something better out there. And what happened is the enemy of great is good. And so all of these other good ideas, these other good things you could do, they're distractions from the great thing you were created to do. And so we have to starve those distractions, and we have to feed the thing. We have to decide to focus on a thing for our life, and we have to commit to it. We have to feed that focus. And when we feed that focus, we start to realize we get momentum in a singular direction. Angel, have you struggled with focus or trying to pick that one thing? Did you have that time in your life when you realized there was that one thing for you?
Well, I think everybody's gone through an experience, where they've been feeling like they're off track at some point in your life, or you're in the wrong job, you're living in the wrong town, whatever it is. I think the reason why people struggle so much with focus is because they don't even know what their goal is. They really haven't a well-defined idea of what they're doing and what they want to do. And some of that stems from just not knowing yourself enough, not knowing who you are as a person, your own personality style, your likes, your dislikes, your strengths, your weaknesses. But sometimes it just happens because you get busy being busy and you get caught up in whatever your surroundings are, whatever your friends are doing. And the next thing you know, you're like, wow, how did I, I'm 30 now, I have to be serious. I think that's what happens in your 20s. You think by 30 you have to be a certain place and time. And I think the earlier you can identify who you are as a person and what you like and what you really want to do with your life, I mean, the easier it's going to be to start focusing. For many of us, it was, we took sales jobs. The sales jobs could be so varied and have so much variety. And for a person that really doesn't know what they want to do, it's such a great place to get started. I think it's like the ideal place to find your niche.
Well, sometimes I just think about how in my career I've had a lot of different industries that I've sold into, and I have a lot of different types of products. And in each of those times, if I've gotten wrapped around the axle that I was on a sales was my focus. I wanted to sell things and I wanted to learn how to sell more of those things. But when that took me in a different industry or a different career, I just found that more exciting. But there was a cost, right? Because every time I started a new industry, I had to start all over again. Maybe I didn't have to learn selling, but I had to learn the industry from scratch. And if you can limit the amount of time you're spending in those trying to get the industry right, then you can keep building momentum on that place that you were going back to the value of that focus. Lacey, there's that giant magnifying glass that we put into the images. I tried to find one where there was like a little 4-year-old with the magnifying glass trying to burn ants, but I don't think that's socially acceptable.
Burn ants?
Well,
No,
I don't know. I don't know if I was me, but the power of that lens, the sun makes it hot, makes us around 90 degrees in the summer, wherever we are, 95 degrees. But with that magnifying glass, intensifying the focus of the same energy from the sun, we can start a fire. And it's because of the intense focus of the energy that you can make things happen, and you can actually, light it up or start it off. And so I think that there's real power in focus, and we keep allowing too many things to distract us. Right? We keep allowing too many things to get us off track. And it's those distractions that if we can starve them, like the quote said, if we can starve them, then we have one mouth to feed, which is the thing we've decided and committed to. But it's not the end all be all. It's just commit to it. Jack Siney, our real co-host, that he's the one that made, it's his show that. And when he puts that, he always talks about you've got to commit to something for 5 years. That becomes your platform. Once you break through around the 5-year point, you're an expert at one thing, and the world knows you as an expert in one thing. Now you can diversify into other things. But that's why that focus on one path is so long. Focus you must. Learn better you will. And so but by focusing on that one thing and knowing the direction, that you become an expert at something, and then you can be accepted as an expert in other things, right? It's sort of like the jack of all trades might have room once you become the master of one. Does any of that resonate with you?
I think, again, knowing what you want and knowing what you don't want. Sometimes if you don't know what you want, you have to find out what you don't want. When I was 16, working as a cashier at Publix, after a couple of months, I said, you know what I don't want? I don't want to stay here. I don't want to do this job. So it was easy to go into my next adventure. But you keep trialing different things, and unless you woke up at 18 and said I'm pre-med and I'm staying in school for 7 years, and I think it's really unbelievable what people like that do, because they have to be hyper focused. I mean, just to stay in school for 7 years, you have to be focused. There's not an option there. It's a commitment. But most people aren't that committed to what they want to do. They go, in and out of jobs, going this way and that way, and then saying, well, hated that, hated that, hated that, and then you go, well, have you got to anything that you like? Let's find out maybe the facets of some of these jobs that you like. And then you can kind of zone in and create, maybe an ideal way to go about your goal by creating boundaries and starting off, small. I think you have to have some success early on, or else you're going to feel like you're just being kicked around. But it's easy to focus once you've got the goal in your head. And then you can start from there and go, okay, now I know what I need to do. And now I have to figure out how to do it.
It's really interesting what you said about knowing what you're not. Online, there's a lot of free personality assessments. I think they're worth checking out because you got the Enneagram that's very popular now. We grew up on the disc. There's the Myers-Briggs. Strength Finders. There's a lot of different assessments out there. And even if it costs you $30, $50 to do it, it's worth it because absolutely. To find out who you are and where your strengths are so critical, because now, okay, that's not one of my strengths. This is one of my strengths. I'm going to build up on my strengths and not worry about my weaknesses so much. But sometimes you have a lot of blind spots because whether it's you don't have a good self view of yourself or whatever it is, sometimes it helps to ask other people. I remember talking to somebody, they were so confident. They said, Mike, this is what I was born for. I go, wow, I wish I knew what I was born for. And they said to me, that's easy. You're an encourager. And I thought, I should own that. If other people see that in me, I should just own that. And let's see where that goes, because it's apparently there's a strength that others see in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. And so that's one thing, is to figure out what you're strong at. Another thing is the 5 steps to improved focus, right? Once you focus on something, how can you avoid those distractions? What can you do to increase your focus? And those, Lacey, if you can tee that one up, it's number 1 is cut out the noise. And so for Angel, what's the noise if you were going to cut out the noise from your workday, what would the noise be?
So for me, I have to have a quiet work environment. Now, not everybody has the same auditory need. Whereas I know a lot of people say, I love music playing in the background, or I like to hear sounds of, waves crashing or something like that. I could probably tolerate the waves crashing, but I don't like music playing when I'm focused on a task, especially if it has anything to do with math or writing. So if I'm writing a class, I cannot have any noise in the back. I can't hear television or anything like that. So you have to find out what is in your work environment, create your workspace so that you can maximize the way you do your job. And it's not the same for everybody. I know you good. Hear sounds, so yours is different.
For me, sometimes I've found the noise app, right, where I can put in brown noise or white noise. Sometimes that just quiets my mind a little bit, just having a little bit of something in the background, just humming a little bit, not distracting with booms and bangs or some song that I'd want to sing to, but just having that noise in the background helps me kind of tune out from everything else and tune in to what's in front of me.
In a perfect world, you have your own office, but everybody doesn't have the luxury of that. So I would say if you work in a noisy environment and you really need to have quiet, just bring some headphones or some earplugs to work, and ask your boss maybe to change where you sit, or you've got to have good environment to get focused.
I think that's really important. If you are at work and you're in whatever's wrong with your desk that keeps you from being able to focus and give your best, I would have that discussion with my boss, because they're paying money for me as an asset. Why would they want to underutilize when they could just take me as an asset, move me on the other part of the room, and get more out of me as an asset? It makes sense. And I would not skip that conversation. That's an important conversation for you, getting the most out of your day, and an important conversation for your boss because they want the best from you and you're helping them get that. What about limit multitasking?
Well, limit multitasking. I know for a fact that I cannot multitask. I think the word is an oxymoron or something. I think that we're learning that we tend to try to do it, but it's not really getting anything done. In other words, if I have my phone in front of me and I'm looking down at my phone every 5 minutes, or I'm getting notifications of messages or emails popping up while I'm trying to type, there's a distraction that you can't even measure how many seconds. Yes, I feel like that sometimes. How many seconds can you be distracted in 5 minutes? I mean, I think if they put electrodes on your head and watched your eye movement as it darted from your phone, and then when you look at your phone, you start thinking about something else. So right away, you're off your task. So I think that one of the things we did with Jack was we went to people's houses and saw their work environments during the COVID shutdown, or not really shutdown, but when everybody had to work from home remotely. And we realized that a lot of people were being distracted by their phones. And a couple of people told me, I take my personal phone and I put it in another room when I'm at work making my phone calls. Because I know if I don't do that, I am not going to stay focused. I am not going to accomplish the task at hand. And then they would give themselves, in addition, which I love, they said, this is my time that I'm making those calls. So between 10 and 12, I know that I don't have that other phone. I'm not accessible through that other phone, and I'm just making calls. And I'm sticking to a timed task. Then I know I can maybe reward myself at 12. I could go to the gym, or I can go for a walk, or do something else, have lunch. So,
You talked a little bit about time chunking, and that's one of the things when I discovered that, it was really life-changing for me because what overwhelms me in my ADD tendencies is thinking that I've got to do a project for 4 hours. There's something about thinking I've got to stay focused for 4 hours almost makes my brain hurt. But thinking I'm going to focus for 25 minutes sounds like a walk in the park. So I realized that 4-hour task for me, it might still take me 4 hours. I might even get it done in 3 hours, but it's going to be in 6 25-minute increments with 5-minute breaks in between. Now, people say it's really hard, especially for me, it's hard to get back into focus. But if I don't come out and go back, I'm just going to drift out and I'll never come back. I'll be operating in a fog for 2 of those 3 hours. And I will have only gotten really 1 or 2 hours, probably 1 good hour of work in the 3 or 4 hours without taking those breaks and paying attention to, I can go in, but I've got to come out, recharge for a couple of minutes, and then go back in again. And chunking that way has really changed my effectiveness, my ability to stay focused on a singular task significantly longer. But I went in the task, out of the task, in the task, out of the task in 25-minute intervals and got a lot of it done, far more than I used to, trying to just chunk it all. Like I'm going to sit down here and hunker down for 4 hours. I'd probably get about a half hour to 1 hour of good work done. And
well,
so
I think if you know a little trick, you got to know yourself. Like you say, I know how to do it for me. And
right.
there's no one size fits all. I could sit there and go, you know what? I don't think I can do 2-hour increments. I'll do 1-hour increments. Like do what works for you, because we all have our own body clock. So your clock is running at a different pace than my clock is running. So I would tell people, look, if you want to work at that time and you can get your work done at that time, then go do it. Now, does that work all the time? No, because if I'm calling on principals, prospects, and people that are working at a certain time of day, my peak power hour being 8 o'clock at night is not going to work out for my work. So I have to learn how to adjust my clock and find out what my clock is right now. Like, what is my time that I'm most alert, most task oriented, most involved in doing that activity? And then if that doesn't work for my work world, I have to adjust me. because I can't adjust everybody else in the world. It's so much easier to just take control of your own self. So one of the ways, if you're a night person and your job's in the day, you're going to have to change your sleep patterns. Maybe it will involve eating pattern, because your food intake also runs your body as well. So you think about the gas you put in and how much are you going to be able to give out with that gas. So we talked about sleep, health, and exercise, or sleep, eating, and exercise as ways to change your clock and your habits.
There's a powerful thing in the 21 minute nap. It's 17 to 21 minutes. It's so powerful because you don't get into REM sleep, but your brain gets the rest that it needs. Literally a really quick recharge to get going for the rest of the day, especially if you're sort of finished what you call your peak power hour, but you've still got more of the day to do. It's great time. And I think I've shared this before, but if you drink an iced coffee or a coffee just before your nap, now it's called a nappuccino, because when you come out of the nap 20 minutes later, not only do you have the rest from the nap, the caffeine is just starting to kick in. So now you're almost ready for a second power hour. That little dude is on. He's a little young for the nappuccino, but I think he's got one going there.
He had the cappuccino.
That 25-minute break is so critical. And listen, if you take a walk, even if it's around the house, we go outside, walk around the pool. We walk down the street and back a couple times in our 5 minutes. But take a walk. Your task is in your subconscious. You didn't leave it. You're taking it with you. But what's really powerful is if you can check out for that 5 minute quick walk or just movement, check out it's amazing how your subconscious is working on solutions and to problems and ideas while you're trying to check out. When you come back, not only are you refreshed, but you may even have new ideas to help you navigate the next 25 minutes of your task.
I've had times where I'm writing a class and I know I have to get it done because I'm on a time constraint. And it's like, you've got to get this class done and you've got to get it done by this time. And then I'm like, oh, it's just not coming together the way I want. And then I find I just learned, leave it. And when I leave it alone, walk away, go take that break, all of a sudden the stress has come off of me. And I'm like, oh, I was just walking and I looked at a tree and I thought about the idea that I wanted to say in the class tomorrow. It just came to me. Obviously, sometimes I go, Lord, please take my brain and fix it because it's all muddled up and I need to be organized and focused. So whatever, take a break, take a walk, stop, do breathing exercises. There's so many different things you can do with a break.
And the last thing is turn off your devices. You mentioned that already. Put your personal phone in put the things that distract you, put them away. And one of the things I use my device, there's a game on my device I love to play. There's a couple of things I have to do every day that are part of my goals and discipline for myself, but they're not what I necessarily want to do. I would much rather play that game. So I tell myself I'm not allowed to play that game until I do those two things that are important to me. And so there's reading involved. I got to do some reading every day. I've got to do some memorization that I'm working on. And I can't, unless I do those two things, I cannot play that game. Sometimes I play that game at 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes I don't play the game, but it keeps me focused on what's important and actually using a distraction as a reward to make sure I get the important stuff done. And then, the other thing we talked about earlier was brilliance, that we are uniquely made. You were talking about your personal power hour, your personal strengths, your personal sleep rhythms and the rhythm of your day. You need to know you, because when you know your brilliance, and now you know the smart things to say yes to and the things that you should say no to that just aren't you. Didn't you find a process called the 4D solution?
I did. Before I tell you that, though, you just reminded me something about knowing your brilliance. I started to ask myself if I was a $10 an hour employee or a $100 an hour employee. And that started changing the way I started doing things. The question is this the best use of my time right now? So if I know I'm worth X and I'm lowering myself to doing something that is not worth that X, I should be going, wait a minute, let's do the 4D solution. So what is the 4D solution? The 4D solution is, the first one is dump it. Some things do not need to be done at all. You may think they need to be done, but they really don't. So some things you just have to throw it in the round file, and that's your garbage can, maybe your inbox, things that come across your desk, mail, all kinds of stuff. Dump it. The next step is delegate it. That's saying it's not me that does this. I don't do that. It's not my strength. That's somebody else. Maybe I can hire somebody else to do this, but I need to delegate it. If I have the luxury to delegate to a team member or somebody that works under me, not under me, but with me on the team that does something better than I do it, then I would say, can you do this? You're so much better at this than I am. And then, even when we do things, sometimes I go, I know how to do this on the computer, but it's going to take me 40 minutes and it'll take you 4 minutes. No brainer. Delegate it. 3 is defer it, means you're not going to do it now. This is not for now. It's not a priority. Do it later. And then the last thing is just do it. Do it now. I do it. Me do it. Me do it now. So that means it goes on my list and it's a priority and I get it done. When I know I'm the best one to be doing this task right now. And that's
you're talking about brilliance. If your first employee should have brilliance that you don't have. If you're going to hire somebody, the first person you hire needs to be the person that is brilliant at the things that are important to the business, but you do not like to do, or maybe you're not even good at. Don't force yourself to do the things that you're not brilliant at. Find somebody that's their brilliance. They'll love it. And you can go on and work in your brilliance, which you're going to love, right? Work at what you love and let other people work at what they love and be a good team.
Yeah. There's somebody out there to do every single thing. I just wrote, work to your strengths and don't try to make yourself what you're not.
Yeah, that's
There's
great.
certain things that don't go with your personality style, going back to knowing your personality style and how you work. And when you know that's not you, you should be able to say, you know what? In order for me to create this as a strength, I should hire somebody that already has it as a strength, right? And instead of trying to take my weakness and say, I got to make myself this way. One of my business failures when I first started doing my own business was I thought I could do every part of the business. And I was great at selling the deals. So I was out there selling the deals, but then I realized I'm coming home and trying to create a website for somebody and taking a course on how to make websites. And then I go, you know what I don't like to do? Make websites. So I said, I need to hire somebody to make websites and go sell the website.
Right.
So, sometimes you learn the hard way, and it's okay. Through that failure, I actually was able to, when I started my business, the one I do now, I don't try to do those things anymore that I know those are not me things.
Well, Jack Canfield co-authored a book called The Power of Focus. He gave us the 4D solution. I love what you did with it, because the 4D solution from Jack Canfield is dump it, delegate it, defer it, do it. And I love what you added to it. Dump it, not ever. That's not ever going to be me. Delegate it. That's not me. That's somebody else. Defer it, not now, later. And do it. What did you say? Me do now? Me do now. Me now. And so I think that's so powerful that we need to process those things that are flying across the desk that, listen, unless it's do it, it's a distraction. It's not a now. The only thing you're doing now is the things that are you now. Dump it, delegate it, defer it are things that just got out of your way so that you could stay focused on course, right? Focus one course. Focus on your course until successful. And then and focus on the journey. Focus on the journey. Jack's big on this. Focus on the journey, not the destination. Set yourself up with goals, design your vision board, figure out where you want to get to, but then don't miss the journey. The journey is where all the action is, right? Mindfulness says live in the day, live in the moment, live in the now, the present, right? The greatest gift ever is the present, live in it. And so that's where you're in the journey, and the destination is going to take care of itself, because the joy is not found in finishing an activity, but in doing it, right? So it's not the end justifies the means. All of the means are individual ends, right? That we can enjoy the journey, because that's what we're in every single day. Because one of my friends, good friend Danny Sullivan, said the other day, he said, if you wait till the end to find joy and you don't enjoy every step of the journey, you've trained yourself and developed the habit of not being happy. You've literally developed the habit of not being happy all along the way. And then you've convinced yourself when you get there, you're going to be happy. But because of all that training and not being happy, you're not happy when you get there either. It's just all for naught. You've really got to learn to enjoy each and every moment, each and every step of the way. And so,
you have to show up for practice. You can't just go to the games.
Can't just go to the games. The pros practice 6 days a week for football and play 3 hours on Sunday. And it's because you're always honing your skills, always working out the kinks, and always getting better. And that's part of the journey. So we've talked about follow one course. Don't worry about missing out. Just stay focused. Love the journey. The 5 steps, cut out the distractions, all the things to get in your way. Know your brilliance. Know your brilliance. Once you've defined your brilliance, dump it, delegate it, defer it, or do it. Everything that comes across your inbox or your desk or your phone, in your voicemail, in your text as well, right? Starve your distractions and feed your focus. And now make new habits and boundaries. What are those things? What are those things that get in your way? What habits are holding you back? And what boundaries need to be developed because you find yourself getting off course a little too easily?
Habits are something that you've been accustomed to doing, and they've become patterns that have become part of your life. And you can have good habits or you can have bad habits. Once you've created a bad habit, people think, oh, this is going to be so hard. I started smoking, or, I eat late at night, or whatever it is. You can always conquer these things if you have the desire to do it. First, you have to desire to change from being whatever that is to a new thing. You have to be able to see or envision yourself in the new normal. So if I was a smoker and I don't want to smoke anymore, I have to say I'm not a smoker, in other words. And then I have to start noticing when I smoke, why I smoke, all these things. I have to really start picking apart what is forcing me to have this habit. And then I have to say, what am I going to replace that with? What's going to be the new thing in my life that I do instead of that? And then what's the benefit of not doing the habit, whether it's health or, the money I'm going to put in this big jar for every time I was going to spend money on it, whatever it is, you have to see the reward. So I just tell people, figure out if you want to change a habit, how you can replace it with something new. What can you do?
Important. That's so important, because you can't leave a void in nature, right? We learned that in science class in probably 7th grade. There are no voids in nature. If you take something out, something's going to fill it. And so we have to, if you say there's a habit in your life you don't want to have anymore, you can't just remove it, because otherwise it will be accidentally filled with something else if you don't replace it on purpose. Right. It will be replaced. But don't let that happen accidentally. Don't let smoking be replaced by eating. Don't let eating be replaced by smoking. Right? Like those are accidental void fills. Whereas if you are on purpose, instead of doing this, I am going to purposefully replace that time and energy into something I know that is beneficial for me. And you get to decide. Just don't let it be an accident.
something can be so simple as, I'm always, buying too many things at the grocery store, or I never come home with the right thing. And then I get home and I've got to go back out. And it's just, how about just putting a list in your phone, a pre-made list? Cause you buy the same 20 items over and over again anyway, and have that list at your disposal and say, you know what? I'm not going to the store without my phone list. And then I'm checking before I go to the store. It takes 2 seconds to open the fridge or open the pantry to see what you're missing. But if I have to keep going back and forth to the store, first of all, who can afford it with the $4 or $5 gas? We can't afford that anymore. So we want to just something simple like making a grocery list, or saying, I never have the ability to save any money. Well, what are you doing? What action step are you taking to start saving money? You have to create something. I'm going to put 10% automatic draft out of my checking account into my savings account. I'm going to set that up. Then I don't ever have to worry about it. I have forced savings. Or I joined the 401k at work. Now I have forced savings. So some little simple action steps can make such a big payoff for you. And it's crazy that we don't think we can do it. We make it much more complicated. Oh, I've got to stop doing this. Because for some reason, we like to lament to our friends about how much of a victim we are. But, one of the
Not on
things
this show.
that people tell me is I hate making these cold calls. I was like, well, do what you hate first, and then the rest of your day is all uphill. Just sit down at 9 o'clock, do it and get it over with, and then move on to your next task. Nobody's making cold calls from 9 to 5 every day. That's just not realistic. And I don't think anybody's expected to do that. But if you have to have a certain amount of calls in per day, per week, then just block out your time and use that time and just chunk it out and go for it. And then say, when I get done doing this, I'm going to go have some frozen yogurt, or I'm going to go walk around the block, or I'm going to do something fun I'm going to go play that game for half an hour. Make sure you
Right.
put your timer on.
And so that's really great stuff, Angel. And it's interesting that if your boss says you need to make 40 phone calls this week, or your boss says you need to see 17 clients in the field, or 9, or whatever the number is, if you need to get that number, don't set yourself a higher number. Work that number, figure out how to get that number done. Then and it may not do it in the first week. It may take you 1 or 2 or 3 weeks to figure out how to get that number done. Once you get that number done, then you can identify, how can I be more efficient? How can I be more productive? Was there one day that I seemed to be more effective than on another day? Was I better in the mornings or in the afternoons? But too many times the boss says make 20 and you say, well, I'll make 40. That'll help me make more money. But you never get to 20 or 40. If the boss says 20, figure out how to get to 20 and then get better. But you got to figure out how to get there first before you can get better. And so too many times that we expand our own goals. What's that?
I think that's so important that you do aim for the number. And like you said, sometimes you don't even get that number. I found that, they used to tell us, go get four closes a day. And I don't think I ever got 4 closes a day, and I still won all the awards. I managed to figure out how to work smart and make the money every day. So I knew the big game is you got to get the money. You got to bring the money in. You're in sales. So I put in play, how am I going to get those 4 calls if I don't have appointments in my book? And so you just work out, like, what do I have to do to get those calls? I have to have booked appointments. I have to know where I'm going. If I'm driving around town aimlessly, I'm not going to obviously get anything done. But if I'm purposefully calling the right places at the right time, then I can work smarter. So when you learn how to organize your time better, then the calls get easier. It seems like once the stress of making the calls goes away, you actually will now be able to sell those calls and have more meaningful conversations with prospects.
So, Angel, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger you about focus, what would it be?
Well, for me, I started late finding out what I really love to do. And I think it's important to start learning what you like. And sometimes it'll take just knowing what you don't like and move on quickly. Move quickly. Don't get stuck in jobs for years and years if you hate them. Because then you're never going to find out your real potential and you're never going to make as much money as you would make doing something that you like to do. And then just keep it simple. Take one little step and just say, you know what? I'm not going to change the entire world in a day, but just for today, maybe I'm going to wake up a half hour earlier every morning this week. One little action step that may impact your whole life. So just, make it for you, whether it's read a book, take a class, whatever it is, make it something fun for you and just get started.
Great. Thank you. You're a great guest, and loved learning more about focus and digging into it with you today. Want to say thank you and a big shout out to our sponsor, I.Help. You can find me at I.Help/Mike Denker. And it's so cool because everything's here. How are you going to get in touch with me? Are you going to text? You can text me, call me, web conference with me, email me, get some payments from me or make payments to me. I mean, it's just the scheduling. I set up my Zoom today. Like, hey, just Zoom me when there's my access to my schedule. It's so great. All in one place. I.Help. You start out for free, and if you love it, like I know you will, you'll be cutting edge, getting your name /your name, and you'll be ahead of the curve, and everybody's going to be using I.Help. It's going to be one of those things like Facebook or Twitter or Google, right? It's going to be the Google of finding me and other humans like me, I.Help. So thank you, I.Help. Thank you, Angel Denker, the sales pro. And thank you to our producer, Lex Lacey. And by the way, this is so cool. Live life to the fullest and don't worry about the negative stuff. Just focus on the positive and keep pressing on. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Stay focused.
Thanks.